kadondo kadondo, msichana mzuri kadondo, kadondo kadondo kadondo, kurochi mukamwe. Ona nipendeza when I say you want in a million, yeah. Uchuma mzuri kari, yeah. Talimu vyati ayo when I say you want in a million, yeah. Uchuma mzuri kari, yeah. Talimu vyati.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are all privileged and honored to make this country our home. This country has a lot to offer us, and we as citizens and visitors to this land also have opportunities to contribute to the development of this country. We are, in our own various ways, are contributing to the development of this country. And this country has a lot of resources to make this happen. But we cannot do this individually in our isolated or narrow, furrows. We need to work together jointly to bring about the needed change, for ourselves and for our country. Everything that we do, we should always remember that we are social beings. Without others, we can't do anything. Without others, we wouldn't get the nourishment, the inspiration, the resources to do anything. And as the Ubuntu philosophy rightly says, I am because we are because I am. It emphasizes our common humanity, the need for solidarity, empathy, and cooperation all along the way. So this evening, we'll be listening to music, artistic performances, literary performances, and intellectual nourishment. Our panelists are going to tell us how to make it, all right, as a Black man. I don't like the term Black. Forgive me for my distaste for that term, because there is no Black man, no white man, no yellow man, no brown man. We are only human beings, all right? The term Black, as you all know, has a lot of negative connotations, all right? And it hurts me when we embrace this term, uncritically, all right? Because I haven't seen any person, Chinese, who gleefully accepts the label yellow man, or an indigenous person gleefully and happily accepting the label, red man. Unfortunately, some of us, have accepted this label, and I don't think that is the right thing to do. That is my opinion. You may disagree with me, but that is okay. So, not to belabor the point, I'd like to call on Reverend Magdelene Manyi to give us the opening prayer. Reverend, we are Ready.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Charles. Thank you for the great dates for putting this program in place, and we are so grateful to be here. So tonight, we want to give honor to whom honor is due, and that is to call the presence of God Almighty, to thank Him for giving us the opportunity to celebrate this day. So let us pray. Father, we want to say thank you. Thank you for making us to be Canadians. Thank you for the richness of this land. Thank you for the diversity. People with disabilities, people without disabilities, the two categories you've created. Thank you for the diversified cultures. Thank you for the awesome contribution that we are part of. Above all, thank you for all people of Canada. 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 16 to 18 says, in everything we should rejoice always and pray continuously, giving thanks in all things, in all circumstances. For this is the will of God in Christ Jesus. In every circumstance, like being a Canadian, we want to say thank you for the ability to be able to contribute and make differences in our community as people of African descent. We want to say thank you because John 3, verse 27 says, a man receiveth nothing unless it's given to him by God. You've given us the ability, you've given us the potential, you've given us all the gifts and the opportunity to be in Canada in this blessed land, a safe place that we are able to contribute and recognized in what we are doing. Thank you. We don't want it to be like the one leopard who was the only one who came to say thank you. And the 9 other leopards never came when you gave them healing. And that's why we are joining all other Canadians to say thank you for this beautiful land. Thank you for the beautiful opportunities. Thank you for the beautiful potentials that we are emitting and making difference. We want to say no one will share your glory with you. That tonight we are not just celebrating to stay, but we are moving forward to do what? Uproot anything that does not pertain to diversity, that does not pertain to accepting multiculturalism, that does not pertain to accepting everyone. And we are planting love. We are planting anti-racism. We are planting all the potentials that you are endowed in us so that we'll do great and mighty things that ears have not heard, minds have not conceived in this land, in the mighty name of the Lord Jesus Christ. We cannot do this without you. And that's why we are calling on the Almighty God who gave us this opportunity to take preeminence in everything that we are doing, to take preeminence as our children are following our footsteps, as we are becoming nation builders, they too be able to appreciate and celebrate. Thank you, thank you, thank you. In the mighty name of the Lord Jesus Christ, we have prayed. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend, for that inspirational prayer. Brother Imtiaz Popat, could you do the land acknowledgement for us?
I would be happy to. When we celebrate this day, many times we call it Sea Day or Colonial Day, because this is the day where these lands were colonized. So, we don't celebrate. My grandfather's from India. I was born in Africa, so we don't celebrate the day when India or Africa was colonized. So, I think we mark the day and maybe do some understanding in retrospect. So we will do that today, God willing. I want to acknowledge that we are doing this work on the unceded homelands of the Coast Salish, Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people. And if I may just take a couple of minutes to sing the Coast Salish anthem, which was written by Chief Dan George. It wasn't written as the anthem, but it has become adopted as the anthem. It's a spiritual song. Hey ho yo, hey ho yo, hey, ah, hey ya, ha ya, ah, hey ya, ha ya, hey ya, ha ya, hey ya, hey. And we raise our hands like this to say thank you.
Lovely. Thank you very much. I didn't know that you're such a great singer. When I grow up, I like to emulate you, Brother Imtiaz. Now, let's ask our one and only one, Mama Kombii, the Chief Executive Officer of Great Lakes Networking Society, to say a few words.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Imtiaz. My name is Mama Kombii. I am Kombii Nanjalah, a mother of so many children in this world, and most of them call me Mama Kombii. I am the founder of Great Lakes Networking Society. Since I arrived here 2006, my mind was to do something in this country that I had to call my home. And that is when we registered the Great Lakes Networking Society, which was African Great Lakes. And Imtiaz was one of the people who pushed me. Samuel was one of the people who pushed me. And we were able to register 13 years ago. For me, celebrating Canada Day is one of those items on our calendar that help us to impress what Canada is, what as people are, and that is why we are here. We will keep doing this annually. At least we keep on doing this to look at the loopholes, the things that the government has not done for us. And from here, we can start pushing little until we see that the government is doing something for us as per United Nations Declaration for the decade for the people of African descent, which was 2015 to 2024. It's ending next year, but that should not be the end of everything. We should keep pushing. We should keep talking. We should keep reminding our governments about recognition as Black people, as African descent. We should remind our governments of development and justice. And that is what is very important. Since we face a lot of discrimination in the countries that we live, that should be pushed. We should push the United Nations Declaration. We should also keep such dialogues that bring attention to discrimination and violence faced by Black people. Mostly, a lot of people in the Greater Vancouver have no connection to Black culture or activities. And sometimes they feel removed from the reality. So what is it that we can come together as a people to impress who we are, to work together, to laugh together, eat together, dance together? It's us to change. I know we were divided, but that should not be something that we should be looking at. Oh, they divided us, we have to keep being divided. No, let us break that and say, if they divided us, it's us to make it better. Let's come together, work together, dance together, eat together as a people. I have been in the community for about 17 years here in Canada. And most of the discussions, when you talk to people who also arrived, they were not born here, they just arrived. But you will feel like these same people are, oh, we don't want immigrants in this country. It's a bit scary having arrived here as a refugee. And then you hear your coworker or somebody talking about, why do these people come here? Why do these people come here? And yet Canada itself says it's a multicultural country. So much is happening, and we should not keep on crying or complaining. We should just stand strong and do what we can do to change just a thing, one little thing. And for me today, it has been always a child, a girl child, women, girls. I have never seen anybody think of this beautiful, handsome young man who is Black, a father, an uncle, a husband, a son. And this is why I thought of us talking about this person. What is it that they go through as immigrants to this country? Or not just immigrants, the people who are born here, but being Black. So that is the reason why we organized this event. So we want to hear from the horse's mouth. What are their experiences? What is it that we can do better to overcome that? Are we going to keep on crying? Are we going to keep on complaining? Are we going to change something in our lives for the better of our children who are coming tomorrow? I am not going to take a lot of your time. I thank everybody who is here for coming, for sparing your time to be here with us. And thank you again. Thank you. God bless. Asante sana.
Thank you, our dear Mama Kombii. Time for cultural and artistic nourishment. We're going to have cultural performances. And the first person we have on the agenda is George Mutunga, who is joining us from all the way in Taiwan with spoken word. Brother George, the cyberspace or cyber floor is yours.
Okay, thank you so very much. I'm George Mutunga, an artist. I'm calling from Taiwan. I'm working here as an artist, and I'm really excited to be part of this conversation and program. Well, I had written a piece, a spoken word about the drums, but I had also the theme of this conversation about the Black men abroad in America, Canada, and basically all over the world. I've been around Europe, Asia, Far East, and so I have the first-hand information or experience. But I said I'll do a little piece. Yesterday I slept writing a piece on this, so I'll do that piece. This is the voice of our ancestors, the Alekibulan, the mother of mankind, the Garden of Eden, or better known to you as Africa. This wailing voice is one of Mutunga, the son of Molwa, the great-great-great-grandson of Ebiaio, the black stone which withers but never disappears. My voice echoes the chant of glory, the glory of the Black man, both at home and away, one whose blood veins flow with the DNA of Alekibulan or Africa. Yes, oh yes. We cannot forget the Black men who stars the waters of America, Asia, Europe, Far East, and beyond the horizons. We cannot forget the Black women whose wombs bear the wounds of oppression. Oh yes, we cannot forget the Black children who hide under their every pain, under their tough black skin. But if there's anything we must do, we must learn how to flip the coin, shape the Black man's narrative. We must not only tell the world of our inglorious past, the chains, the slave ships, failed battles, suffocation, bigotry. We must also learn to beat the drum, blow the horn, and chant the songs of the bright, glorious future of the black man. The black man I choose to see is like a flowing river. It is calm, yet phantomless, with depth and resilient spirit, the spirit of Alekibulan. Oh yes, they have prepared us for centuries. Now it is time for the black man to rise, for Africa to soar high up like an eagle. Our black skin is the safest place where our souls find refuge. Viva Africa, viva! Viva Harambe, viva! Viva Uhuru, viva! Viva Alekibulan, viva! Viva Ubuntu, viva! Aluta, continua. That is my time. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, brother. That was powerful. That was indeed powerful. Yes. Our mothers, carrying the pain in their wombs, and all of us carrying the pain and the inglorious past under our dark skins. Thank you, brother, for that very powerful, rendition. Yes, and I also like the fact that you used Ali Kabulan to the proper name of our continent, right? So thank you for bringing that reminder to us.
Okay, yes, awesome. That's my job. I'm an artist. And we are called to be ready anytime, anywhere. So I normally use instruments to accompany myself, but I'll do a piece. I hope it's all well. It's about eulogizing or praising the African drum. I normally teach about African anthropology and culture, so I'm always proud of it. So I want to start. Welcome. When I think of Mother Earth, when I think of the listless time past, and when I peer into the coming future, I feel your warm embrace. You, my African drum, you're my bridge to life within and without. Oh, my beautiful African drum, when I hold you, a resurgence of life and all its vast mysteries flow through me. Indeed, you calm me, my African drum. When you look at these African drum, tell me what you see. Somebody, come on, people, let us interact. What do you see when you see these African drum? Doctor, what do you see? Tell me.
I see wisdom, I see history, I see culture, I see knowledge, I see folklore, I see love, I see peace.
Absolutely. Great. Yeah, all this beauty, everything. So when you look at these African drum, what do you see? The wood is calm, it is serene, it oozes strength and power. With my hands, I carved this hollow resonator. Therein lies the path of the phantomless mysteries of rhythm, wrapped in rhythm. Once upon a time, this hollow wood was a blossoming tree from the bowels of Mother Earth. However, it has now taken another form of spiritual existence. My African drum transcends the physical life of mortals. It defies time in its resolve to live on.
Wow.
Behold the stretched skin on top. It stretches proudly. Look at the way it hugs the wood in an eternal tight embrace. Nothing separates them. It is the tale of the great fusion of flora and fauna. Truly, I tell you, this stretched skin once walked the earth as either a reptile or a goat. However, just like the hollow wood, it has now taken another form of spiritual existence. My African drum transcends the physical life of mortals. It defies time in its resolve to live on. Oh, my beautiful African drum, what a metaphor you are. My hands were made strong by the Almighty. He also deposited rhythm in them. I therefore slap, rattle, cajole, seduce, caress, and play this African drum with all my soul. That is, thereafter, I release the unending rhythms of the yearning of our souls. That is my African drum. Thank you.
Wow, that's a good one. That's a good one. Right on, brother. All right, so I'm going to recite one of my poems, for you. This poem is titled "Lady Whirlwind Justice." Which direction do you blow? Whose logic do you follow? Which law guides your ebb and flow? Blind, you say you are, yet even blindness has logic. Blindness is guided by law. Is that not true, Lady Whirlwind Justice? You can't defy your own law. To do otherwise is a logical flaw. Whither thee, Lady Whirlwind Justice? East to west, west to east, north to south, south to north, back to forth, forth to back, up to down, down to up. Which first? Whence first? Where is your starting point? Where is your end point? Where is your beginning? Where is your end? Where is your center? Where begins your ebb? Where ends your flow? Lady Whirlwind Justice, you declare proudly and pompously, I am Lady Whirlwind. I whirl, I push, and I pull. Yes, I am the encircling, never-ceasing whirlwind. I've no end and no beginning, no top, no bottom, no up, no down. I have no center. I begin where I end. I end where I begin. Yes, I am topless. I am bottomless. I am centerless. But, Lady Whirlwind Justice, I humbly disagree. Your Norton concentric circle must have a beginning and an end. You can't defy your own Frankenstein monstrous law because you created that which created you. Even your fractured concentric circle, you created it. Dare you to disagree? Yes, your concentric circle of encircling gloom and merry-go-round merriment, you created it, and it created you. World without end. Thank you. So let's continue with the next performance. We now have Ephony band with Zimbabwean music.
Moya wam, wolalelu Jesu ka. 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 Moya wam,
That was the Euphony band with Ayumbuli, Ayumbuli, Ayumbuli. Bravo, that was a beautiful one. I can see our brother Leban Unongo. Yes.
Hello, everyone. First, I would like to appreciate this opportunity for you to come up with a great idea. Actually, it was challenging for most of the Black people. And I would like to appreciate Mama Kombii for coming up with this initiative so that we can learn from each other, so that we can embrace our culture too. Indeed, I want to appreciate the music. Yeah, the last song is good, eh? It's beautiful. They have the beautiful voices.
Yeah.
Oh, they have beautiful voices.
Right, right. They are living by they are living by their name. The name Euphony means good sound.
Oh,
yeah.
So that's beautiful. Okay, what I wanted just to say is I want Mama Kombii to be having this kind of forum every time and then, so that we can learn more and give each other heart, so that we can exchange this and give everybody at least something to know, like others who are outside the country, like Canada, so that we can know more about what's going on down there when you expect to be there too.
Lovely. Thank you.
Thank you,
Brother
Laban.
Laban. Brother
Thank
Laban.
you.
Yes.
Calling from Kenya. That is good.
Oh, okay. Thank you. How are you doing, my brother from Kenya? All right. It's now time for our panelists, all right, to share the nuggets of wisdom with us. And I'm going to read the bios. Actually, we'll start with the first speaker, and that is our brother Ladi Thompson. And Mr. Thompson is a clergy, strategic thinker, security expert, conflict resolution consultant, and statesman, trained as an architect, Master of Science honors. He has served in mission fields across different continents. He is a regular conference speaker across African nations, Europe, and the USA, having presented a paper in the US Congress auditorium on the Omoluabi matrix as an alternative dispute resolution tool in counterterrorism. He has authored several theological and motivational books, including the bestseller Decoding Drums. Our friend and brother, Mr. Thomas, the cyber floor is yours. Now.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I really appreciate you all the time. I'm following your footsteps. But first of all, let me congratulate Mama for this inspiration that created this platform in the first place. May that inspiration never die. And Doctor, thank you very much. Am I allowed to share the screen so
Certainly, yes. So let me make you a co-host.
Yes.
Okay. So you may now share
Thank you
your
very
screen.
much. I highly appreciate that. Now that's going to make things a lot easier for us.
Okay.
That's great. So in a few minutes, I just want to again acknowledge the wisdom of this platform. I want to thank Dr. Charles. I think I'm challenged by his zeal to just be a Then I also want to, all the pieces of music that we've heard so far, I want to thank Brother Mutunga, the symphony we just listened to. Appreciate you all. Now, I'm quickly going to talk for a few minutes on how to make it as a Black man in Canada. And what I'm going to say to you is that there's a principle we need to observe. Africans must come to a place, every man of African extraction must come to a place where we accept that both failure and success are results. You don't get them by buying lottery tickets or by the throw of the dice. They're results. And if you want to succeed, there are three things that we must always put into perspective. First, knowledge. We must gather information, whatever it is, how to make it as a Black man in Canada. Secondly, we must gain understanding. That's what comprehension is. Now, if you stop with information and comprehension, we will not succeed. We get to knowledge, we add understanding, and to understanding, we must learn from Africa to add wisdom. Wisdom is when you create an application. Why do I say this? I say this because we must start with the knowledge base. So to make it as a Black man in Canada, we must first of all appreciate a lady, another lady again, another woman again, Viola Irene Desmond, we must acknowledge the reason why her face has been put on the currency of this nation is because she's one of the first Canadian civil rights activists, a Black businesswoman, a Black Nova Scotian, and what she did in 1946 speaks for itself. So every time you spend that currency, remember that something has started already in this country. Now, I'm saying this because this is probably one of the best countries in the world for us to talk about the plight of the Black man. The first thing we must know about the Black man is this. There's a global move right now. A lot of things are happening all over the world. It's a time of change. So a lot of thinkers across the world are looking at a new world order. And when you study most of them, they have what they call a Hegelian view. That is, they exclude Africa. It was George Hegel, the philosopher, who said Africa has no historicity. He painted the picture that all Africans, all men of African descent, are emotive, we're intuitive. They say we are unscientific and incapable of critical thought. So when the world wants to move the globe forward, nobody ever really looks as the contribution of the man of African extraction. For the younger generation, we must make sure that this stops in our time. Now, for those in Canada, sooner or later, we must come to realize in Canada that the obstacles that you face in the Canadian setting is a very mild strain. Every challenge you face to make it in Canada is very mild compared to other parts of the world. It's a mild strain of a very corrosive global social construct that cannot be addressed in isolation. What does that mean? We must embrace Ubuntu. The Black man in Canada should stop trying to make it only for himself. What he's up against is a global construct. And if anything, Canada actually is one of the best nations in the world where, like I said, I want to admire Dr. Charles because of the work he's doing, but I have also observed that Canada is probably one of the best places where the voice of Africa can be merged into the global opinion successfully. So I believe that what the inspiration that Mama has, by which she started this platform, will grow one day into a global contribution of what Africa has to give the world. Now, having said that, I want to say to you that Bantu Stephen Biko, South Africa, remember he was killed. He said the most potent weapon in the hand of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. So if you want to make it, make sure you gather information in your mind, that's knowledge, get comprehension, understanding, and then move to an application, which is wisdom. So even this platform, we must end up with an application sooner or later. Now, let me show you how our plight is all over the world. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but watch this.
In Brown versus Board of Education, the famous case that desegregated schools in the 1950s, Dr. Kenneth Clark conducted a doll test with Black children. He asked them to choose between a Black doll and a white doll. In most instances, the majority of the children preferred the white doll. I decided to reconduct this test as Dr. Clark did, see how we've progressed since then. Can you show me the doll that you like best or that you like to play with? That one? Can you show me the doll that is the nice doll? And why is that the nice doll? He's white. And can you show me the doll that looks bad? Okay. And can you give, and why does that look bad? Because it's black. And why do you think that's a nice doll? Because she's white. And can you give me the doll that looks like you? "15 out of the 21 children
All right.
the white doll."
Let's move on from there. I'm sure that you saw that. Now, Stephen Biko said, look, until we begin to gather knowledge, we add comprehension and create an application, the Black man in Canada will find out that he's not up against a Canadian problem. The young Black man in Canada, and female too, will sooner or later discover you're up against a global construct. And I'm going to recommend some books for the younger generation to read to help you to gather the kind of information you need so that we can work together, Ubuntu style, to create a future where there will be no disadvantage based on melanin, which is just the pigmentation in our skin color. The first book will be The Souls of Black Folk. It's a book that I think will be made a textbook globally when we begin to agitate for it. It was published, I think, in 1903. The second one is The Miseducation of the Negro. Carter G. Woodson is the man behind the Black History Month. Then we also have a book called The Destruction of Black Civilization, Great Issues of Race from 4500 BC to 2000 AD by Chancellor Williams. If you get through that, you need to go and read White Trash, the 400-year untold history of class in America by Nancy Eisenberg. Then, very interesting one, The History of White People, Nell Ivan Painter. Then, of course, Martin Luther King Jr. wrote Where Do We Go From Here? When you read these books, you're going to find out that W.E.B. Du Bois in 1903 said the problem of the 20th century was the problem of the color line, the black-white color bar. He said it's the greatest source of sorrow and troubles all over the world. He was born on the 23rd of February in 1868 in America. He moved in the latter part of his life to Ghana. He took with him the seeds of the freedom tree, planted it in Ghana, and died in Ghana on the 27th of August in 1963 in Accra. I've been to his house where he lived in Accra. Lovely place. Now, the problem of the color bar in the 21st century has become so much more sophisticated that a lot of young Blacks in Canada, not only Canada, in America, not only in America, anywhere you go, in Europe, the Arab world, you name it, the Black pigmentation has been stigmatized and all sorts of obstacles placed our way. How now do we respond to this? When you get information, you're going to find out that behind the mind of many predatory civilizations, there's something they will never tell you. But W.E.B. Du Bois unfolded this, Du Bois, some call him, unfolded this in 1903, when he used the term tertium quid to refer to the identity of men of African extraction in a racist society, where non-white people, that's us, are viewed as a devalued category between man and animal. Now, let me tell you what they're talking about here is this, that there's a passionate belief that somewhere between man and beast, God created a third thing, and that's supposed to be us. We're supposed to be related to man and beast, even though we are neither men nor beasts. Now, you may not know this, but even global policies till today reflect the capture of the tertium quid, and you will soon know why in a few minutes. Now, if we want to get things right, we have to remember that we can't do anything without the truth as Africans. So if I ask a question, the first color bar that you see, what color is in that bar? If anybody can oblige me quickly. The very first one, I believe it's white, right? Then next to it, what's the next color? Black, right? Next to it, we have purple, we have green, and we have red. You say, why? There's a method to the madness. Let's just watch this quickly. I want us to enjoy ourselves with artificial intelligence. Let's take the tool of the white man and let's enjoy ourselves today to see how we can unravel this problem and how a Black man can make it in Canada by understanding that it's not a Canadian problem. The obstacles are not Canadian, they're global. And we will never be free until we learn to solve the global problem, and then we'll enjoy the fruit in Canada. And there's no reason why Canada can't be the ground where we develop the solution to a global problem. So I was going to the genie, my chatbot, ChatGPT, and I said to him, I asked a few questions. I said, look, what is the color white? And he says to me, white is a color that is often described as being the absence of color or the combination of all colors in the visible spectrum. He says it's a neutral color that is associated with, listen to this, purity, innocence, and goodness. White reflects all light and is often used to create a sense of brightness, cleanness. It's a popular color for clothing, home decor, weddings, among other things. In art and design, white is often used as a background color to make other colors stand out. Oh, white is beautiful. Now, you heard what Dr. Charles said when he started out, the whole program today, saying that he didn't really believe in this question of how can a black man, make it in Canada. I'm going to expatiate on what Dr. Charles was saying to us. So I asked ChatGPT, what is color black? Aha. It says black is a color that is often described as being the absence of light. Okay, light, knowledge, all right. Or the absence of color. It's a dark color that is associated with mystery, power, elegance. I hear you. Blackmail, black god, black god. All right. Black is often used to create a sense of drama and sophistication, in fashion, home decor, and other areas. In art and design, black is often used as a contrast color to make other colors stand out. There's something philosophical about this ChatGPT. It is also a popular color in graphic design and printing, where it is used to create text and images with high contrast and legibility. Okay, thank you, ChatGPT. Thank you, artificial intelligence. My next question, and you're going to have fun at home too by asking these kind of questions from artificial intelligence. Is there a green man on the earth? Is there a green man on the earth? ChatGPT said straight away, no. There's no green man on earth. As far as we know, while there are many myths and legends about creatures that are part human and part plant or animal, there's no scientific evidence to support the existence of such a creature on Earth. There are, of course, many different plant and animal species that are green in color, but none of them are humanoid in shape or appearance. Okay, ChatGPT, artificial intelligence, is there any purple man on the Earth? He says, no. There's no purple man on the earth, as far as we know. Well, there are many human skin tones that range from light-colored and this and that, and he began to explain to me that there are no purple persons on the earth. He says, look, there are rare medical conditions such as porphyria, aguirre. The skin may appear to take on a purple or bluish tint, but these conditions are extremely rare. Additionally, there are no human populations with purple skin as a common trait. So I asked the question of the hour. This is what the doctor was saying. I asked a simple question. Is there any white man on the earth? Now, without batting an eyelid, ChatGPT replies, yes. There are many people on earth who are commonly referred to as white. White is a term that is often used to describe people with light-colored skin, and it's one of the several ways that humans have categorized skin color based on physical appearance. However, it is important to recognize that skin color, everybody listen to this, is a social construct. And there's actually more genetic diversity within so-called racial categories than between them. It is also important to recognize that racial categories can have significant social and political implications, and that people should be treated, as individuals rather than being judged based on their skin color or other physical characteristics. So I said to ChatGPT, you said there is no purple man, you said there is no green man. Are there really any persons that are white in color? Listen to what artificial intelligence says. While people who are commonly referred to as white do have lighter skin tones than people of other racial or ethnic backgrounds, their skin is not actually white in color. You can make them tell the truth. Skin color in humans is determined by the amount of melanin, I see, a pigment produced by specialized cells in the skin called melanocytes. People with more melanin have darker skin tones, while people with less melanin have lighter skin tones. I see. The skin of people who are commonly referred to as white can range from very light to light brown, but it's not actually white in color. So I said, look, skip the rigmarole, ChatGPT, artificial intelligence. Can you oblige me? Can you please answer with one word? I said, yo, I'll do my best to answer your question with one word, he says. Artificial intelligence says, for example, question, what color is the sky? Answer, blue. So what's your next question? Simple. Is there really any white person on the earth? ChatGPT says, yes. So I said, where? It says everywhere. So I replied as truthfully as I can. I said, liar. So what does ChatGPT do to me? He says, I apologize for my previous response if my previous response was not satisfactory. To answer your question more accurately, there are people with light skin tones all over the world, including in Europe, North and South America, Australia, and parts of Asia and Africa. However, it's important to recognize that skin color is a social construct and that people, and he just goes on. Now, this is the truth. I asked ChatGPT a question when it started out. And I said to ChatGPT, do you have any biases?
As an AI language model, I don't have personal beliefs, opinions, or biases. However, I may reflect the biases present in the data used to train me. OpenAI is committed to reducing biases and improving fairness in AI systems. They work to address biases during the training process and provide guidelines to ensure ethical and responsible use of AI tech.
ChatGPT, I asked him, I said, do you have any biases? He said, no. I'm artificial intelligence. I just crunch data and I speak truth. And I said, but however, whoever inputs the information does something to me. Now, let me say this to all of us in closing. A lot of Africans have been spreading stories about artificial intelligence and ChatGPT 4. 5 is coming, 6 is coming. The white man is up to tricks again. They're trying to keep blacks away from using a simple tool that can solve all the problems we've ever had. Trust me, ChatGPT puts into our hands as men of African extraction, people of melanin, a tool that can be forced to speak truth. Why? It has machine learning, it has ability to learn. So the more that Africans, people of African extraction, go to ChatGPT and educate it by asking the right questions and call him a liar when he tells lies, hello, the quicker we're going to discover something now. If we're ever going to solve the problem that has slowed us down all over the world, we're going to have to listen to ChatGPT. It's a social construct. And whenever you have a construct, until you learn to deconstruct, look, we can carry banners from now to kingdom come. Black lives matter, white lives matter. We're only making life worse for ourselves. Why? We need to deconstruct. That's why I said Canada can be the first place where Africa takes a stand by joining hands with people who are truthful. So let me close by saying this. I want to give out a $1 million, Canadian dollars though, please, not American dollars. I want to give out a $1 million reward to anybody today who has heard me today or who will listen to this as Dr. Charles, spreads the message. I'll give you $1 million if you can just bring me a white man. But hey, just before you rush off, let me tell you my criteria for the person you're bringing to me. The white man you're bringing to me match the color bar. On that screen, I have white, black, purple, green, and red. Since there are no purple men, no green men, no red men on earth, I didn't say anything about black men though. You need to bring me a man whose color is this white, or else, if you don't see anybody, nobody wins the $1 million. Then we have the right as Africans or people of African extraction, those of us who have chosen Canada as home, then we reserve the right to call to people to be truthful, to join hands with us, to deconstruct the black-white color bar as a social construct. So how can white lives matter when there are really no white men? I yield again, Doctor. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
We'll take the next step. Thank you, brother. Thank you so very much indeed. All right, okay. We thank our brother for that very insightful, incisive, and very educative presentation. We are going to continue. We're going to have a Q&A session where I'll put you into breakout rooms, okay? And we're going to discuss what we've heard today. And then each room would get a note taker. When you discuss your, issues, the note taker will take notes. And then the note taker will also be your spokesperson. So when the breakout room ends, the spokesperson would summarize what you guys said. And if you have any questions for the speakers or the presenters, you do so. All right. So let us move on to the next presenter or panelist, our brother Imtiaz Popat. Mr. Imtiaz Popat was born in Africa and came to Canada at a young age. His lived experience and the work he does as a counselor, having produced a short documentary called Hate Kills, which has won few awards. Early life, joining in Africa before he arrived here, and has experience living in North America and as a counselor in Vancouver and its environs. Brother Popas, we can't wait to hear your nuggets of wisdom. The cyber floor is yours, brother.
Asante, thank you very much. Dr. Charles, I was asking Dada, I call her Dada because I'm older, and Mama means mother and Dada means sister, so she's like my sister. I met her many years ago, and she's from Kenya, I'm from Tanzania. And so we connected with beautiful Swahili songs. So so I'm asking her, why am I on this panel? I'm not Black, but because you are from Africa. And we've had discourse today about deconstructing that Black and white are social constructs. But I also want to add that in the UK, all people of color or BIPOC people are considered Black. And so here we are in that sense. Now, I have to tell you, my grandfather moved from India to Africa to make a better life. And today, as we mark, I call Colonial Day, C Day, this is a story of colonialism where the British divided us. And they brought Indians as indentured laborers to build a railway or trade and so on in Kenya, in Tanzania, in the Caribbean, in Jamaica, many places where Indian people migrated. But what happened is that the English gave us more opportunity than Black people. And that divided us even further and created, this construct of hierarchy and privilege. So in Africa, we had more privilege than Black people, as we have more privilege than indigenous people here, because we were given that privilege. But when we came here in 1972, my father came here, that privilege diminished very quickly. So what happened is, whether it's in the UK or in Europe or in Canada, those of us who are not white, or the construct of European white, are in the same boat. So we are in that whole struggling of issue. I'm glad you find that funny. But in Tanzania, we didn't use the terms Black and white. We call people by their culture. European, African, and Asian. We're Asian people, not Asian. There's no Z in Asia. I keep on telling people, or they call us Muslim or Islam. There's no Z, but we're Islam. I'm a Muslim, and we follow Islam, and I'm an Asian. So I tell people, that my blood is Indian, but my breath is African. So in terms of racism, as the bio said, I'm a psychotherapist, I'm a counselor. I also am a filmmaker. I made a documentary called Hate Can Kill about a murder of a security guard who was taking care of the Gurudwara in Surrey in 1998 by white supremacists. And this is a common story of what happens when we are othered, right? Whether we are not the privileged white or European class. And the white supremacists don't want us here, right? So they want to get rid of us and they want to kill us. And this is what happened. 2 months later, or 2 years later, the mosque in Surrey was torched by arson. A few years later, another Gurudwara was, 6 people died while praying. Most recently in Canada, in the Quebec mosque, people were shot when they were praying. We've seen churches, Black churches, indigenous churches burnt. So this is the kind of white supremacist racism that these lands have been colonized. India was colonized by the British. Africa was colonized by the British. The same British that colonized here. So the racism that my brother before me spoke is systemic and is colonial. And as we mark Canada Day, this day that these lands were colonized, we must remember that this is what this is about. And so I think this is in terms of making, and as a psychotherapist, I see people, in my counseling room who are struggling with all kinds of barriers, whether it's racism, sexism, transphobia, homophobia, and these are barriers people deal with. And my sister, Dada Kombii, always tells me is that, Imtiaz, why is it, we see Black youth walking with their heads down? And one of the biggest issues when people come to me in counseling is the issue is self-image, right? And pride and confidence, the lack of confidence. The fact that those of us who are immigrants here in this mostly white colonized lands don't have confidence issues because the way we're treated. Just yesterday I saw a movie called Hurricane, starring Denzel Washington, about Reuben Hurricane Carter. I advise you to, my brother is telling me about books. I'm a filmmaker. I'll tell you, watch films. And Denzel Washington, of course, has made amazing films. Hurricane is one of them, about how this Black man was framed for murder, right? We see, To Kill a Mockingbird is a piece of fiction, but this is a true story. And he lives in Toronto now, or I don't know if he's still alive, but it's a beautiful story to talk about how systemic racism has challenged, those of us who are considered Black. And there are other stories like that, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, as the story goes on and on. So how do we survive in this whole sea of systemic racism? Well, to do that, we need to come together in days like this, in these panels like this, to listen to each other's stories, to empower us, and to learn from our colonial racism. That is my intervention today. Thank you so much.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. Thank you, brother. That was another very powerful presentation, short and sweet. And the takeaway from our brother's presentation is, you know, a coalition, a rainbow coalition of everybody together fighting the fight together, all right, because we can't do it alone. And talking about rainbow coalition brings me to the idea of preaching to the choir. You know, at forums like this, one would hope that we have people from across all the so-called Malabar, all right, the so-called racial, divide, so that they would learn from one another. All right, now we see only a homogeneous group, more or less, all right? But if we can bring people of European descent, from continental Indian descent, from indigenous descent, and we engage in a cross-fertilization of ideas, then that would be a very important milestone in changing the narrative to make it more inclusive and more holistic. Do we have another speaker? Maybe I skipped somebody. Let me see. Imtiaz. Oh, yes. Lama Mugabo. I'm so sorry. I've said this multiple times, and I'm going to say it again without shame. In Ghana, when you forget somebody, it means that death will forget that person. So, my brother, death will forget you, and you're going to live even longer than Methuselah. All right. Let me read our brother's profile so we know who he is. Lama Mugabo is a community planner passionate about social justice, food security, and economic development. He is the founding director of BBR, Building Bridges with Rwanda, a non-profit organization that promotes Rwanda's sustainable development projects in Rwanda and engages local audiences in learning about Rwanda's development transformation in Canada. A sessional instructor at Simon Fraser University, Lama teaches courses in the Continuing Studies Department, Liberal Arts. Last year, he led a study on Rwanda's transformation from a failed state in 1994 to a modern form today. In the fall, Lama will teach a course on the hidden history of Vancouver's only Black community displaced in 1972 by the city of Vancouver to build the Georgia Damsville Viaduct. In 2003, Lama earned a master's, an MA in planning from UBC, where he examined the integration of African refugees who came to Canada from the war-torn nations of Sierra Leone, Liberia, the DRC, and Burundi. Burundi, Rwanda, and Somalia. The study was done working with educators at NWU Secondary School today. Lama works for BC Poverty Reduction Coalition, where he manages a community development project that creates on the value of people with lived experiences in poverty to become catalysts for change. As a member of the African diaspora in Vancouver, Lama works with the SFU Institute for Diaspora Research and Engagement. He uses the the Rwanda development model to engage local audiences in understanding the face of Africa that we really see in Canadian media. Okay, so it's your turn, brother. We are all ears to you.
Thank you, Charles. And I don't have any desire to live forever. So thank you for the wish. When my time comes, I want to go.
Fair enough.
Thank you, Mama Kombii, for inviting me to be part of this very important conversation. Asking a question, how to make it as a Black man in Canada. I want to offer you my experience as an immigrant from Africa, and also tell you a little bit about my work, and hopefully we will begin to understand the barriers, but also the opportunities for us here as immigrants. When you're in Africa, Canada is described as a land of milk and honey, a place where money grows on trees. When you arrive here, you tell yourself, all my problems are history. You're excited, you're full of dreams and ambitions. Gradually, as you take a closer look at this reality, you experience anti-Black racism and face numerous barriers to make ends meet. Then the heaven you imagine begins to fade and turn into hell. When in 2000, I decided to do my master's degree in planning, and I chose to investigate the transition of African refugee students who come to Canada, and ask myself, how are we successful? And I did my field work at New Westminster Secondary School, and the municipality has this big secondary school, only one school, and there, New Westminster also is home of newcomers from Africa. At the time I was doing my research, there were refugees from Sierra Leone, Liberia, Burundi, South Sudan. And I worked with those students who came here. The parents brought them here for hope of a better future. Now, the obstacles I noticed were, one, identity. So when they interact with their peers look at them, they have no understanding of Africa. They don't know anything about Africa, and they see them as African Americans. And of course, question is, can you teach me Ebonics? For those of you, Ebonics is a language spoken by African Americans. And but these kids are confused. What do you mean? I barely speak English. I don't know Ebonics. And as kids continue to live here, they realize that, nobody knows Africa, but people certainly know Black America. And for me to be accepted, for me to belong, let me play the part. So they wear the cap backwards, the pants are dropped, they put cornrows in their heads, they wear, earrings. All of this is contradiction from the African culture. And so there's a problem they face at home. Furthermore, in education, some teachers stream them not into academics, but in trades, because they figure that the intellect, this is where it's going to serve them best to be successful. At home, parents are too busy. They often don't have time to interact with the kids. When I talk to them, they say, oh, my child is fine, school is taking care of him. And they fail big time to understand the challenges that these kids face, anti-Black racism, stigmatized, and issues with drugs and police harassment and all that. So kids struggle along. The records have changed now, but back in the day, most kids from Africa, when they finish high school, they didn't go to post-secondary school. Unfortunately, most of them went to prison. This is because of anti-Black racism, over-policing our communities, and really the school not understanding them. The third obstacle I observe, has a lot to do with professional accreditation. Basically, when you apply to come to Canada, you ask several questions and you score points. If you speak French and English, you score points. If you have post-secondary education, you score points. If you're professional and you come to Canada, yes, you score points. And then your hope is, as soon as I get to Canada, I'll be in heaven. Everything is going to be great. But then when you arrive here, they look at your degree and they don't accept it. Now, if you're from South Africa as a doctor, you come here and you hit the ground running. You accept it, no problem. But if your medical degree is from University of Kinshasa or Liberia, forget it. And this is so severe. This disappointment is so severe that a lot of these professionals come here, and I know a case, really tragic case in Montreal, where an Algerian surgeon came to Canada, couldn't get a job, worked as a janitor. And as a medical doctor, you have status in Africa and you're providing your family and you feel good. But when you're in Canada, your kids are used to that and you cannot even buy them a Christmas present. You can't provide for your family. Tragically, this man took a gun, shot his kids and wife, and killed himself. So Canada has just lost a medical doctor that it desperately needs, but also lost, his children and a wife and a man who wasn't supposed to die. Now, let's look at the opportunities. I understand that the new generation, there's a difference between when we came here as refugees back 40 years ago, we came here thinking, as soon as my situation changes back home, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna come here, study, make some money, but as soon as the situation changes, I'll be back to my country. Now, this really puts us on a disadvantage because we're not here to stay. We're not invested in staying and making this our home. 10 years become 20 years, and all of a sudden you realize, oh my God, I don't belong there. I really belong here. And in fact, when you look at other communities where they come here and they stay 2 or 3 generations, they're really thriving. So we need to learn from that. The African diaspora. Now, kids who are born here are different from us. They grow up here, they have local education, they speak clean English, they are confident, they have no complex of inferiority. And I noticed lately as I talk to young people, when they finish university, they're getting good jobs. And this is how it should be. Now, we can learn about the difference between them and us, but I think the opportunity here is that young people are really going to drive the process going forward. I want to share with you a really exciting opportunity in Westminster, where the Swahili Vision International and Luma Housing Society joined forces, and they're building housing for both indigenous and African people. That's amazing, because going forward, we hope that other communities can learn from them, and we hope to see more of these projects where indigenous and African people join hands. The other thing is that Hoganzale Society. Some of you may know that Vancouver used to have a Black community, and that community was erased when the city of Vancouver decided to build the Dansmere and Georgia viaducts that displaced this community. So from 1972, Black people had no homes. If you own a home in 1950s and you hope to pass on this wealth to your offsprings, all that went out of the window. We lost the opportunity. We lost our home. And in 2016, the city of Vancouver decided to remove those viaducts. And at a public hearing, Black people showed up and reminded Vancouverites that we were here and would like to bring back the community. Now, last year, Hoganzale and the Hoganzale Society in the city of Vancouver signed a memorandum of understanding. And we now have the block at the corner of Main, Union, Pryor, and Gore as a future home of Hoganzale, where we hope to build housing, business spaces, a cultural center, and ability to grow our own food. So these opportunities, I think, will be great for our people, particularly young people. If you are 10 years old, you're looking at opportunity to really contribute. And so I'm hoping that we hear this message and we join hands and really provide for our people, because no one else will do it for us. Thank you very much.
All right, yes, a big round of applause for our brother. That was so wonderful. That was so wonderful. Quite inspirational, isn't it? Right?
Just one more point, Dr. Charles. Lama,
Yes.
thank you so much. I'm Javirani. I'm originally from South Africa. I just wanted to talk about, I won't talk about it, but you mentioned about South African doctors being recognized and more in Canada. Just want to qualify that it's mostly white South African doctors, right, and most of them are Dutch speaking. So just so people don't go away with that messaging in their mind. South Africa super. Thank you.
All right. So, okay. So that is our brother. We are in illustrious company, aren't we? Thank you, brother, for your contribution to our people here. And we wish you Godspeed, to do more. And we like to see you more, all right, at our events to share your knowledge and wisdom with us.
This is Mama Kombii again. I will go back to thank everybody who has contributed. And I'm here to say something a little bit about Lama. Lama, yes, Lama, we are here. What we see in Westminster for Swahili Vision and what we see in Hogan's Alley, this didn't just come by the way. It was because we were. So when we come together, we have a number. And when they see that number, then they see us. But if you will be Lama drumming by yourself, you will never get anything. And I am still pushing, and we should still push that in Vancouver, as much as we have Hogan's Alley, I want Lama to have a small office on one corner. Kombii has another office in another corner. Charles has another office in one corner, so that people don't look for us. Anywhere they go, oh, we have a studio here for music for Black people. We have the library here for Black people. We have let's try to push the government. Let's try to push our cities to make sure that we get something for us. Nobody's going to do that for us. We have to do it for ourselves. Beautiful. In schools, as Lama said, yes, we have the schools as privileged opportunities. We have schools that really help few children to succeed. But I still feel we have a lot to do so that our children are accepted, because we have those teachers who will just like look at this young man who is an African and he's aggressive. He's like this kid who runs around and he does these things as an African kid. A teacher would go recommend that that kid is abnormal. So they will start working against that kid. They start giving that kid the medication. They start planning for that kid. They start cutting the resources for that kid. So it's not enough, Lama. It's not enough, my people, that we feel the children who are born here are getting the best. They are not getting the best because I work in schools. And
Mama, if I may interrupt here, can we do this as part of the breakout room and then the Q&A, right?
Okay.
Because I can see other people who have raised their hands as well. So let me put you in breakout rooms. And again, this is the ground room. All right. As soon as you join your room of 5 people, elect one person, or one person can volunteer to be the note taker and at the same time the spokesperson. So as you discuss, the issues that you had today, all right, just choose any of the issues discussed today by any of the speakers, okay? And the note taker will take notes, and that person at the end of the breakout room session would summarize what you discussed. And if you have any questions for any of the presenters, you ask those questions, and then we have a full-blooded, discussion thereafter. And I would suggest also that if you can propose one solution, practical solution to the issue, the problem that you raised, all right? So let us do that. All right. I can see smiles on the faces of all of you, meaning there was an opportunity for intellectual nourishment and a lot of maybe fiery exchanges as well. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to start sharing our nuggets of wisdom, and we're not going to start in any particular order. So whoever is ready, to share, begin to share their findings in their group can volunteer to take the lead.
Hello.
Hi,
Hello.
Samuel, hey. Mr. Wetaya.
Yeah.
Happy to see you again.
Good to see you. So I volunteered to start our conversation. Our breakout room was room 2, gathered some nuggets for the discussion. So one of the main things we started with was the issue of race as a colonial construct. And we also brought up an issue whereby an Egyptian migrating to America or Canada, they're always termed as white. Like they're registered as white immigrants. So the reason being, the Caucasian people didn't want to accept the fact that Africans constructed the pyramids, that there was a civilization before them. So to them, they think if they have an Egyptian registered as a white, it gives them that latitude and comfort that Egypt was built by a white race. And also we talked about how Africans have, like, they always mix together. Like there was trade before the white man came. Like there were in histories where the Chinese traded with Africans. Like in Kenya, they recently found out a tribe, a lost Chinese tribe that was marooned because of they used to trade with Africans. So they were marooned, they're shipwrecked, and they settled in Kwale. And they started their own family there, mixing with the locals and everybody. So like when it comes to people, we don't have like pure Black people. We have a mix of everybody there. So Blacks and white, that's like a colonial construct. Also, we talked about wealth acquisition for Africans here. Like maybe in our next forum, we can have panels here, invite financial planners and everybody to help Africans to acquire that wealth acquisition using the colonial structure, so that we can, the colonial structure to further improve Africans as a community. So another thing we talked about was here in Canada and North America, intelligence is measured by how well you speak your English. But that's not a measure of intelligence. Like you can find somebody who doesn't speak a word in English or French, but if you listen to them, they have wisdom in their speech, in how they carry themselves, in their integrity. So if you don't speak good English, you're termed as not intelligent. So thank you. I think that's some of the items we brought up. So
okay.
I'll let somebody else pick up.
Lovely,
Thank you.
lovely. Beautiful. Thank you, Samuel. Now, another volunteer. Anyone to volunteer from one of the groups?
Okay.
Okay. Very good. Our sister Zainab. Yes, very good. Yeah.
My name is Zainab. I'm talking on behalf of Group 3.
Okay, Group 3.
Yeah. One of the things which we brought up is about digitalization. We've seen that there are some of the things which are digitalized in the modern world, the neo-colonization, that we see that we're in the same boat, but actually we are not in the same boat. We are in different boats, but leading different directions. Like we had an example of how in Africa right now the digitalization of things are being controlled by the Western world. So the knowledge which the students are being taught and the institutions around our countries, they're being controlled indirectly with the Western world. Even the policies which are being imposed in our governments, they are being controlled by the Western world. So whatever we get, whatever we Blacks have in our mind is being induced slowly by slowly, and we tend to believe like the children and the dolls. They are kids, but they see that the white doll is far much precious than the black doll, because this is the knowledge which are being taught from their childhood to their adulthood, and then the way they see things. And secondly, we talked about the education system also. The education system is different, as in, like, for example, if we talk about Kenya, where I come from, the system is changing. We have CBC. Last time we had 844, I went for an 844 system, but my kids are going at CBC system, which is different. And the institutions are being changed to research institutions. We are changed to be like a consumer market, as in we are consumers for the produce which are brought. So what we can do for, at least the best we can do, is being researchers of what they bring. Like the seeds, now there are new seeds like crops, the potatoes, the seeds which are brought, we plant them, and then we are taught how to grow them, and then we are taught how to yield them, and then most of the lands are being produced. The food which we produce, much of them, they are being exported, and then we are left hungry. Now we beg for food again, we beg for finances. So the system is totally different. So actually, I'm a new student in SFU. So when I came to Canada, what I've learned is totally different of what I knew, because I've never been outside Africa, as this is my first time. So seeing Africa as Africa with this knowledge which I'm getting right now is quite amazing, as if I was seated in the other side of the fence. The media, the televisions, everything which we see is being controlled. Now we see what they want us to see. We consume what they want us to consume. So it's kind of hard. to tell somebody in Africa, as in you should rise up, as in you're colonized. They don't know what you mean, you know. Maybe because we are from this other side is when you're seeing things differently. Your viewpoint is different from our viewpoint in Africa. So thank you.
Wow, beautiful. Thank you, Sister Zainab. The next group, a volunteer, spokesperson. All right. Okay.
I'm Edgar.
Edgar. Okay, Edgar. Okay, Edgar. Okay.
Yeah. So I was in a group with Ladi Meji and Devirani. Okay. And for us, I do not think the time was enough to capture all the different topics that we immediately engaged with. So I can just say that we began with Devirani just clarifying how you might think that, you know, she's Indian and class her that way, but there is this wide color bar that, you know, excludes her from opportunities. And she was clarifying that even on the conversation about the South African doctors, that it's not, you know, across the board that whoever is from South Africa gets to, you know, access the job market here with the same credentials. And then, you know, we went further into digging up other books. So I mentioned this one book by an author called Gerald Horne, and it's called The Apocalypse of Settler Colonialism, The Roots of Slavery, White Supremacy, and Capitalism, where this is a Black historian who's decided to reframe the history of capitalism away from just the narrative of racism and looking at the systemic mechanism that they used to actually build wealth and how they created the narrative so that they could label who can be exploited. And that created a deeper conversation over whether this narrative is something we're willing to take charge of as Africans, because we still define ourselves as, you know, against what someone else is saying. You wouldn't be able to say Africans definitively, you know, they show who they are by their actions. No, they're actually arguing for who they are against what someone else is saying. So it is something to note that maybe we have a lot more resources than we did before. And there is something I can say as a young man here trying to find my way, that I do want to engage with the older generations in full cognizance of the more abundance of resources that we have to create a different future for Africans, to create a different story, to take charge and see what that would look like. You know? So that's what I could say.
Lovely. Thank you so much. You don't know your group number. This will be, the next one will be the last group, I suppose. Yeah. Okay. Hi. Is that Hinda, right?
Yeah. Right. As we talked before, me and Mama Kombii, we discussed about education recognition, whereby most of our African degrees are not recognized in this country. And we don't even know what to do with it. And we always hear like there is equality, there is this, there is that, but we never find that. And secondly, we talked about what do I call since now the Swahili is recognized, in which way we need to get again teaching our children also in the school as one of the international language, the Swahili language, into the Canadian system. And there is other things that we have talked, it's families. Families come here as they are together. Children come here, they are very good, they are nice, they're sweet, they obey for parent and everything. But the minute they go to schools and they are here together and they're living a life, you will see them, social workers interfering, separation of the family, things are falling apart. And we don't even know yet what is the best solution that things will bring and keep together. because as the children, they need the father figure is very important and the mother figure is very important in their psychological growing. And here it has been destroyed away. And then at the end of the time, you will see the children join a gang group and so on. And these children, they come here with no gun and with not even knowing any kind of violence. But this is where they have been taught. And the other things that we talked about, it's about robots. Robots, what do I call? They're taking they're taking this kind of technology. It's taking artificial technologies are taking a human labor. That's number one. Number two, right now, before the artificial intelligence take a place, anywhere we argue, we have been told the system is this, the system is that, the system is like this. Dr. Charles, I think you remember that last year around this time, I was knocking your phone a couple of times and telling you that I am an A student and I see my GPA, it's down. And why my GPA, it went down first time, there was an exam that I had to sit. And that exam, the professor was Jewish from Germany. And that professor, I got 100% her exam. During the final exam in the universities, they usually sit in different places than our usual classes. And for myself, I like always sitting the front. As sitting front all the time, when I went to the exam, it was based on one of the theaters in the university. So I had to sit front, and it happened like I got 100%, everything 100 out of 100. It was 120 question as an academic. And she argued with me, how did I make it that? And I told her, listen, I got 100% because I try my level best. Nobody have forced me to be in this university. It's me who's looking establishment. I put time, I put energy, I put anything that I have it, and no one is forcing, no one have advised me. I even end up having a student loan in order to establish myself. And then you are here trying to tell me this. And she told me no. I told her, listen, if there was any kind of cheating, call the department, call the dean of the student, the dean of the university, call all the what do I call, the head of the department and everyone, call them. And me, I have to call the CBC and the medias. I have to call and they have to come here. You have a camera, you are standing at the front of me. If I have cheated, it's that it matters to you. Okay? To me, it was matter to me to get what I wanted to get. But if I have cheated and you are president here, you are the one who have to lose your job, not me to lose even a single mark. So we argued. And then since that, they have not been putting my marks from the registrar's office, or I don't know what really happened. Every time that I check, they have not been putting there. I'm graduating. I don't see all the 120 classes that I did, because as a bachelor, you have to get 120 classes. And every class must be, what do I call, 3 credit and up. Some of them were 500 credits. So I had to go and complain to them. The professor said, like, yeah, you did, you are a student, I have no problem with you, and you have your exam. If there is anything, go to the department and registrars. Don't come to me, please. So I came to you, I remember. And I communicated with you. I told you that I have this my marks. I am an A student. I don't know what really is going on, and this is what I have. At the end of the day, with no kind of, after the hustle and everything, it happened for me to graduating with Dean's Award. from the university. And I shared with you guys, I assume so, as I am a Dean's Awards winner. Then as I'm going that through, can you imagine what other children are going through? I remember that sitting on an exam, and some of the students, they had nothing to write and they seated like this relaxed. And me, I'm there calculating a microeconomy, okay? And doing everything. And then after all, giving as the first person to give out the exam and walk out because anxiety I couldn't keep. And I'm being told like, this bitch, she's so smart. Okay, that's a privilege, telling me this bitch, she's so smart. And having A all the time. It happens. And we ask ourselves why the children are their head down. They go a lot. Sometimes maybe they have no person to share with. I do not have anyone to share with. And immediately, even when I came to talk to you, my head, it was going like this. After all, I had to go to the university and say like, you know what? Either I have the media or either I need to have my paper. Simple as that. You get my money, you get my time, you get my everything. I needed this. And then like cool down. What's bothering you? Still we are working on. That's what I'm taught. How many people have a time for that kind of nonsense to have it? Nobody. So we really need to think twice. And then that was the time I was told, oh, it's the system this, it's the system that. And I have been telling like the system, it's a man-made, just like you and I. And then when now it goes to artificial intelligence, whom are we going to communicate with in the system even? What do they have said on there? Yeah, so that rule us.
Okay. Beautiful.
And
Beautiful.
also how environmental will be this kind of artificial intelligence. As an African, I'm very concerned about my African continent. I have been hearing there's this kind of, what do I call, fertilizers and everything are being produced from the Western world and being given to the African country. And do they know, first of all, once the land, it has been introduced to the some kind of a species that is not belong to here, it always need the same, and then we will always depend on this. Okay? So how much can we be desperate to keep asking them to give us fertilizers and so on? Why we don't continue our crops the way it used to be? Huh? And the other things, the lands that many of the Western countries, especially the white people, have actually purchased a lot of lands, and we don't even know how we are going to kick them out. Sometimes we need a border control, we need land control, we need the ocean to be controlled. Every government, I need them to pay attention to the land and who's coming in and what are they carrying to. What kind of damage can they give to our environment, to our nation, and to our everything? United Nations, for them, it was all the time to support to the African countries. And we need them to get out of our countries, and for them to get also out of our system. Because during the time United Nations was developed, some of my African countries, they were not even independent. So how can we be behind or accepting their rules and everything? We don't need to. We don't need to. They are there to create jobs for themselves. They are not there to help us. And during the time, all kind of rules and everything have been written. Some of the African countries, they did not have a voice. They did not have their independence or sovereignty. And then rules that are there is what we have to be under their knee. It's just another way of manipulating. And that's something that we really need to wrap, and they have to go ahead with it. The problem now we are discussed here, okay? This is a book. This book, it's called Global Problems and the Culture of Capitalism. Okay, whatever things that we are talking about in Africa and in here, it's on here.
Okay, group 4, we are all ears.
That is George Mutunga and Caroline Onuko.
Okay.
It's a good crew because George is working in Taiwan from Asia, and then Caroline is in Kenya, and I'm here in Vancouver, Canada. So we had those experiences. So we discussed just 2 points, which I will summarize. Number one, who are we as we are coming here really to Canada? It's because most of us, we are in Canada, we are having this discussion here in Canada. Who are we really Africans? So wherever, who are you? And then the next, okay, what's the way forward? So number one, who are we? Like, what do we have? What skills do we have as we have moved here? Do we just come and we don't have any skill? Yeah, and that is one of the key, even if we did not specify trade, but that was the point, like, what do we have? We want to move to Canada, but what qualification do we have? That's number one. And what matters here in Canada is more of a skill. We may have certificate, as you all understand, our degrees from our countries, nobody recognizes them. Like for me, I'm a PhD. I did my PhD from China. I did my master's from Kenya, my bachelor from Kenya, but all those degrees are just stupid. Yeah, the point is, what can you do? What skill do you have? And if you don't have that skill, here you'll come and suffer. You'll suffer. The only job maybe you can do, I'm not saying they're bad jobs. They're very good because they give us food, they give us coin. We are going to sweep forever. We are going to do security forever, because we don't have that skill which is needed in this country. And therefore, we in our group, then we said, what's the way forward? What do we need to do? We have found ourselves in this situation. We have degrees or we don't have degrees. No matter what, we have found ourselves here. What do we need to do? The good thing with the Africans and us, we are very resilient. That's what we talked about. You understand? You keep pushing and pushing, no matter what. Go and sweep. Get the small coin. The small coin you get, go get the skill which is needed. Then use that skill to get the job and then you enter into the system. Otherwise, nobody here who is favoring us will continue to suffer unless we understand the system. And in this case, you can see the way Canada, I think most of you understand what has come up about the study. If you came up here with a work permit, you can still study. You understand that? So within this moment, you can get a small skill which will help you to enter into the system. Otherwise, we will going to suffer for long. I do my research here at the University of British Columbia in the civil engineering department. I'm multidisciplinary, but what I've realized is still there is systemic racism here and there. I normally see like professors from Iran, they know how to bring their own people. They put them in their own department. They give them opportunities and they put them out there. But what about us Africans? We have maybe some professors just there to just stay there, quiet, but they don't. So the point here is to get your skills. That's what we discussed, and just be resilient. And therefore, I thank our group members, Caroline and George, for those contributions that they made. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, everyone. Now I'm going to do a quick summary of your discussions. I'll begin with group 3 or group 2. You discussed the idea of the calabar, that for example, Egyptians come over here and they're treated as white, and they get all the privileges that go with whiteness, get the jobs and the positions and all that. Meanwhile, we from sub-Saharan Africa, we even have qualifications better than them, but we are put under the pile and at the bottom of the well, as it were. All right, and you also talked about the idea that the Europeans or Euro-Canadians try to equalize or include Egyptians as part of their race because of the idea that the pyramids, okay, were built by Europeans, when that, of course, is not true. The Arabs came to Egypt much later, when all those monumental discoveries and inventions, the pyramids had already been made. The Greeks, philosophers, they themselves attested they studied from the ancient Egyptians. All right. So that was the point that you made. And we also have to remember that under the skin, okay, we all are African. All right. Whether you are white, so-called white, brown, yellow, because that's what we will all wear before some of us left the continent. That is why you have, let's say a clan. One clan left the continent, okay? The Chinese clan left the continent, okay? That's why they all look more or less similar. The European type left together, that's why they all look similar, all right? And one thing that we have to remember is that all the so-called races are in Africa now. Just look at the African faces. You have the Chinese-looking type, the European-looking type, and the typical African-looking type. All the races are there, okay? It is just the fact that they left. Some of them left from a place of intense sunshine in Africa to places of less intense sunshine. So they lost the ability to produce dark melanin. That is all. That is all. Okay. So that was the group 2. Group 3, you spoke about digitalization and as a form of neo-colonialism or a form of neo-colonization, and that the digital enterprise, the digital project is still being controlled by the West, and we need to be very, very careful. We need to be our own researchers, all right? We need to engage in our own research and try to deconstruct the knowledge system as it is now. Otherwise, we'll remain slaves, to the system forever. So that was what we have to break the cycle of dependency. That is what you guys said. So that was group 3. And then group 1, I suppose, said that discuss the issues of color and they suggested certain books that we need to include in our repertoire or in the library. Okay. And then we also suggested that we must learn a new system of wealth creation, all right? Because the West created its own system of wealth creation. And if we are to break from that cycle, if we are to develop ourselves, we have to create our own system of wealth creation. Group 5 spoke about artificial intelligence, all right? That we also have to be wary about that. And Group 5 also spoke about the fact that our certificates or credentials from African universities are not, recognized and all that. Okay, and then our sister also, that is Hinda, spoke about her, personal, very painful, struggles with her university. And then group 4, that is the last, but certainly not the last group, said that they asked 2 questions and sought to answer them. The first one was, who are we? Okay. And what can we do? All right. And the way forward for them, that their solution is skills, and resilience. Learn some skill, no matter how small, no matter how unrecognizable it is now, but learn the skill because eventually it will help you to navigate your way through the system. So that is what you all discussed in a nutshell. Any questions, any additions, and or subtractions to what we've said so far? The floor is open. I'd like to ask a question to our brother, Thompson, Ladi Thompson. You spoke about the idea that we should embrace, the new way of creating artificial intelligence. We shouldn't be afraid of it. We shouldn't be suspicious of it, but we should rather embrace it. Could you expatiate on that, please?
Thank you very much, sir, Dr. Charles. And I think the best way to capture that in the context is to first look back. The ancient Africa we mentioned, we lost our advantage because we went into unnecessary mysticism. The mathematics by which the pyramids were built and all that was shrouded in mystery. You know that Pythagoras and the Greeks went to study at the basic classes, and a lot of what Greeks claimed actually came out of ancient Egypt. But having said that, we also need to realize that I'm using artificial intelligence already, and I'm going to break down what I'm trying to point out to us here. The Slavs were the ones who in the, was it 9th century? The word slavery comes from the word Slav. In Spain, when the Muslim conquest was taking them as slaves more than anybody else. It was the Arabs who were taking them as slaves. And the point is, when the Europeans joined in and they, sort of perfected the state of art, the only reason the African became the center of slavery was because we work harder, we are more resilient, and they found out that we were more productive as human units. So what I'm trying to point out to us is this. In ancient Africa, we had non-monetized economies. When all of them came, they had monetized economies. Now, the truth is this. I've listened to the three people. The advantage they have over us is this. I'm going to point out only one thing. Exactitude. Mathematics. The ability to reduce concepts. Now, one of the brothers here spoke about narratives. To sum everything up, it's all about programming. The weakness of the African since ancient Egypt till now is that if we go unemotional, we don't understand programming. Programming is the only way to create something that will live beyond your generation to the next generations after you. The Arabs and the West Europeans mastered programming, enculturation programming. And that's why I said to us that if we are wise, we're going to find out that artificial intelligence is not partial to anybody. It's like buying a computer and your laptop. The brilliant Hinda must have used a laptop computer in preparing the stuff she used to excel. The laptop comes and it's open. What you put into it, what you program into it, is what helps you to get your results in college. So what the Western world has done without knowing is that because they made artificial intelligence available, it is a tool that has a computational latitude and a digital processing speed that makes up for our lack of exactitudes in mathematics, in the mathematization of events. What am I, let me just nail it down by saying this. Instead of lamenting over the past, what Africa needs to understand clearly is this. The ability to program. I was in Rwanda, I was in Uganda, I've been in Ghana, all over the place where I go. The deficiency we have all over the place is the inability to understand how programs work. Colonization was a program. Slavery is a program. Until it is deconstructed, its effect can last 650 years, and no school in the world teaches it. So if we don't research it ourselves, we're going to be in deep trouble. So what is the future Africa needs to look to is this. If we keep lamenting about the past, we will forever be victims. Let us look towards a globe where there will be what we call interdependence. There's going to come a time when the entire globe is going to be interdependent. Interdependence, if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, all of us are humans, basically, irrespective of our color. If we work towards interdependence, what Africa can do right now is that let us take the advantage of artificial intelligence to feed it with the proper information, get out the right things, and then deconstruct what is going on right now and offer a superior form of civilization. You mentioned how our children are very attentive, how they're very polite before they get mixed up in here. If anybody creates a program to show to anybody else how their children can be better, whether black, white, Canadian, or French, nobody will refuse it. So I think we need to get rid of the extreme emotionalism. We need to calm ourselves down, make use of these processing tools. Look, in Nigeria, it took only 399 Britons to subdue 7 million people in northern Nigeria. It was a program. So if you understand human programming, because that's what they do, they understand human programming. Each individual amongst us, no matter how brilliant you are, you will end up dying and there will be no difference for the African race. So we need to let go of the, you see, part of the problem of the program they program us is that we become very individualistic. Divide and rule leaves that behind for us. So we fight ourselves. But if a handful of people can come together with proper critical thought, without emotionalism, without revenge, without spite, and deconstruct what they have done. You saw that film, children by age 6, 7 have been programmed to hate their skin. We don't have time now. I can tell you I've researched this over 30 years. I will show you how they program us. No textbook contains it. And I'm yet to read any book that has it. But if we calm down and we look to a future of interdependence and show them we can share the resources of Africa without anybody killing anybody else. Let's go higher, not lower. Let's not try to punish them. Let us solve the problem by creating a new global program that helps everybody to live in peace on this planet. And we can do it because we have all from Ubuntu to Omoluabi to this, all the things are ready in Africa. We just need to put it on a digital platform and be lucid in communicating. Thank you, sir, Dr. Charles.
Thank you so very much. That was so powerful, you know, an elucidation of, you know, what needs to be done, you know, way forward. I think you should lead some kind of, you know, a project or something and bring us all together, you know, and begins doing something concretely as soon as possible. These are, you have a wealth of ideas about this, you know. So I don't know if you've already started something. If you have, you know, bring us on board, you know, and let's go with it, you know, because, you know, it's time, you know, to do something radical. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Charles. You are too kind. You have already started something, so I think I'll consult.
Okay, very good. All right. Okay, so any other, you know, contributions? Paul Nyagaresi. Paul, let's hear you.
Okay, thank you so much. I really like and I've loved what Thompson has really mentioned in terms of technology. It's here to stay with us. Yeah, and I've loved the way he has really put it. Let us stop being individualistic, because I have stayed here a few years. Maybe this is my third year starting now, and the only thing I've learned as Africans, just not all, but majority I've met, we are just too individualistic. You meet them on the way, even saying hi, like they literally look down, like they cannot even say hi. You wonder what the hell, like, are we killing each other? And we are just brothers and sisters. Like, but they want to show off rather than just saying hi and then you move on, advise each other, which is different from other groups. They're doing like Indians, Asians, they know how to come together, they know how they're fighting for their own brothers and sisters. But as Africans, like, you don't know what's wrong with us. So, and therefore this group, that is the question I had, like, what means of communication? Because that's the question I was asking. I was only trying to add on what Thompson was saying. Okay. Yeah, but my question is, like, what form of communication? How do you give your communication to other Africans who are here so that they really know, like, you exist? Because like for me, just got this from our Kenyan group, just a message there, and then I put an initiative to just join. But you can see here we are few, but there are so many people who are even unaware of what's going on. Like, okay, what do you want? What have you put down to keep on mobilizing more people and sending this information? And number two, what are you planning to do so that this kind of messages reaches to all, not only all, at least to really a good number, because we may talk and then after we close this, maybe it will be over. 2 or 3 are the ones who are going to meet, and then they'll be on their own. So that's really my concern.
Very good. Thank you, Brother Paul. Our sister, Divarini Naidu. Divarini, yes.
Thank you. It's Devirani.
Devirani. Okay, lovely.
Thank you so much for this conversation, and I think it's been long overdue for me. I've been in Canada for 18 years, and I'm from South Africa. I'm probably one of the last of my generation that lived through apartheid, and I've worked in organizations pre and post apartheid, looking at equity, diversity, inclusion, and belonging. And as my group knows, I'm of mixed heritage with Khoisan and Indian. So I think just in terms of the conversation today, I just want to acknowledge, and I just want to hear, and I just want to let Hinda and Paul, just what you shared. You know, I still feel that pain, and I feel that fight for acceptance and for acknowledgement of who we are. And I think part of the other aspect for me as well is, as much as we're looking at programs, and I acknowledge with respect to Oladimeji, but I also think, you know, people often look at African people as homogenous, you know, so it's also understanding there's this beauty of diversity within our groups as well. And I think we also have to do more work around this too, because people are coming from different cultural experiences within Africa. And I look at it from a North American context. There almost seems to be this one view of how we look at Black people. I remember coming out of post-apartheid when Mandela was released, and I was very fortunate to be in South Africa at the time. There was a definite distinction also between rural African people and urbanized African people. And there was a definite distinction in how people were creating a caste system within Black culture around whether you had this form of education or that form of education. And we must be very careful about how we speak about the Black identity, or the Black man or the Black woman, or how we identify in terms of our orientation. I am concerned that I'm not sure how we're measuring our worth and our value. When Paul speaks about the accents and about speaking English and all of that, I have a problem with how people look at accents. If they did their DAL study and they looked at accents, I'd be curious to see how people associated so-called intelligence with different kinds of accents. And I had a very interesting experience with a white friend of mine from Belgium who speaks English with a very pronounced accent, very difficult to understand her, even if you speak with English. And people told her in the lunchroom, yeah, in Canada, I'm so glad we have immigrants like you, because you come with more culture to this country. And she said to them, you don't know my friend Devrani, and listen to how she speaks. She comes from Africa. So I just think that it's not about your level of intelligence. It's how people are associating that perception. An accent is beautiful, whichever way you want to speak. The English language is one of the most non-regulated languages. I think if people had to go to another country and learn to speak an African language, you know, people will make an attempt to try. So I just think that when this group does the work that we have ahead, there's a lot of work that we still have to do around how do people see their identity? How do we love ourselves? Firstly, to be loved by others, where you can actually move away from whether you need that acceptance or not. You know, I've been in Canada for over this time. I came as a professional. I speak fluent English. I was not recognized. There were judgments immediately made on the way I looked. Firstly, people thought I was Punjabi. And at the time, Imtiaz, I don't know what was happening in Canada, but Punjabi people were not very welcomed here either. Then they discovered I'm from Africa.
I'm not Punjabi either.
Oh, you know, I'm just thinking about what you said about the community in the West and US. And so it's just interesting how people's perceptions came up. So I'm just wondering about that identity and about, do we really own our own identity? Who do we, you know, whichever ancestry we come from, to take ownership and pride in that and understand the wisdom that came with that. At the same time as we look to how we work within these systems in which we find ourselves, and how then we collectively come together and share that wisdom and that knowledge of what we have, whether it's our music, our culture, our languages, all of that. And so for me, that's what I will take away from today. But I see a lot more of this conversation and this work and action that needs to happen in this direction, and recognizing people's different lived experiences on the African experience as well. Let's not fall into the trap of having people define what that Africa needs to look like or how that Africa needs to be. So those are just my thoughts on this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sister. Thank you so much. Well spoken. You also suggested some books that we could also add to our libraries. Thank you. All right, Sister Mama Kombii's hand is up. Mama, yes.
Yes, please. Thank you, Charles. Thank you, everyone who has made this wonderful day a nice day. I'll go back to Paul. Paul said he's been here for 3 years and he's wondering what else can we do so that we can keep the fire burning. Paul, like we started from the beginning, everybody has mentioned that the system has made us to hate each other. I have, for example, posted on Meanwhile Blacks in Vancouver like 100 times. I have posted on KNBC 3, 4, 5 times. Look, the KNBC, the people who have been here for 20, 30 years, I only have you and Kimani, who came 3 years ago. But there is nothing, there is no old person who will want to come. So we have this culture that we ourselves have built. I have a house. I can only talk to somebody who has another house. I have this life. I only can talk to this sort of a person. So that one is still a problem. So the little group that we have today, of 10 people today, of 14 people today, why don't you, Charles, or any other person, we come together and we make this small group something out of today, and then we shall rely on this group every time we have something, and then let's create at least a month with a problem, looking at one problem, and then we talk about it. We look at one problem, then we explore. We don't have time into 2024, which is the declaration for the case for the people of African descent. And if we had something that we can start now, by December, we have a document to send to the UN, like the head office. I think it may be in somewhere in Africa, the decade for the people of African descent, and say, this is something that we started. We can't all be here, but at least we are representing the ideas that are out there. We will never be 100 as Black people. We will never. We will always be 10. We will always be 9. We will always like, I don't care. We have that problem. So I'm asking the people who are here that what is it that we can do again? Today we talked about that man who is an African, who is a father, who is a brother, the life that they go through. This man here called, who came in as a student, Lama, explained. We have our brother who has really like talked and his brilliant ideas that he can give us. He can say, go this route. And then we can take that route and we can build something out of that. So let's come together again and do something. This thing of coming together today and then we can come next year and, oh, let's be doing it. That is a song. It will never stop being sung. But if we said from today we have creating this and we are going to call it People of African Descent, blah. As long as they see people of African descent, people from all over will come. But when you put Kombii, they don't know which animal that one is. But when you say people of African descent, they own it. So this small group here, let's call it something, and then let's create ourselves something that we can be talking about the problems. We know that our goal is to tell this story to that person at the Decade for the People of African Descent's office. I think mine is that, and thank you for allowing me to come here so many times.
Very good, sister. That was very good as well. I was thinking that, yes, we can have these meetings, but we have to make sure that every meeting has a solution to the problem that we discussed, right? My teaching, and, my philosophical, the linchpin for my pedagogy teaching, is based on the idea of, blending theory with practice. Okay. And Nkrumah, in his book, Consciousism, said, thought without practice is blind, and practice without thought is empty. So we can talk and talk and talk, but if we don't actualize our ideas, put them into practice, we'll be just a talking shop. So we should always make sure that we come out with some concrete solution, okay? And it is a great suggestion by Sister Kombii that we should do these things, summarize them, create a document, a position paper or something, and submit it to the committee. I don't know what they call it, but it's the Committee for the Decade for People of African Descent, the secretariat or somewhere, and send it to them, right? That would be our concrete action, right? So that is my suggestion. We already have a group called the African Heritage and Black History Group, all right? So what I intend to do is to add you, if you write down your phone numbers and email addresses, I'll be adding you to that group to expand it and, organize these events occasionally, all right? Because of burnout, we have to be very, very careful that we don't overdo this, all right? Because we all have our own, daytime jobs and things like that. But the emphasis should be on quality and not on quantity. So we can organize events maybe every quarter, every 2 months, all right? But it must produce every meeting, every event must produce some position paper, action paper that we can take with us, maybe create something ourselves or suggest to the higher ups, the UN and other bodies, to do something concrete about that, with those ideas. So that is my, my humble position or submission. All right, so it is now time for vote of thanks. Yeah, the vote of thanks will be made by Sister Kombii and Brother Wetaya. All right, so let us hear you, and then we can part company in peace.
This is Kombii. Thank you, everybody. I take this chance to invite Samuel to wind up for us. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Well, thank you there, Mama Kombii. So being Canada Day, I just want us to acknowledge that there are some atrocities that were done to the First Nations, and as their host nation here. So I just want us to acknowledge that the colonialism system had something like to account for, as well as in Africa as well. So, and also I need to pass to you guys, there was a an apology that was sent to me by Kevin Parker Sr. He couldn't make it to the panel, and he had a family issue, so he couldn't make it. So he sent his apologies. So thank you so much for sharing. I know it's the matrix of the global construct that we've been covering. As people of African descent, I just want us to be like, according to all we've been talking about, let's all be gatekeepers. Let's see what's going on, like the Western world. They don't have good plans for Africa. Let's catch them when they're doing anything like cultural appropriation, like you know how Disney came and took out the Hakuna Matata. You can't use that. You can't use that word anywhere, because if you use it, they penalize you and say that word has been incorporated, and it's a Kenyan word. So like let's all be on the lookout for all that. Somebody talked about GMO. The Western world is trying to take over Africa. They're trying to kill the African population and move in there. So let's always be on the watch out for all that. The brain drain. Our doctors from Africa, they're coming here to work as janitors, leaving Africa vulnerable. Also, thank you so much, Brother Lama, for how you presented Blacks in Canada and all that. I really appreciate how you summarized that and everything. So I know a lot wasn't covered in this forum. We are hoping for more of these kind of forums to cover more on the challenges of being Black in Canada and all that. And we are hoping for we'll have more items coming up soon. We are hoping for more like-minded nonprofits to join hands with us. We are asking for volunteers. We are having a Harambeecouver festival coming in soon. So we are asking if you can volunteer. If you are another organization that has a like-minded approach, we can partner together and do these events together. Also, there's a forum we're gonna present as African Great Lakes on crime prevention for people of African descent. So we are hoping that we'll meet up. If you are a nonprofit and you have anything to say to that, please partner with us and join us in that conversation as well. On that note, I thank you everybody for your participation. I appreciate, like, it is Canada Day. You made time to come and join the group for this forum, and I appreciate every contribution. And I hope you'll go home and read a book from all the suggested books. Like, we have a library there. If you can read one, it will make a difference. Thank you so much. I'm gonna return this to Brother Charles.
Thank you. Thank you, Brother Samuel Wetaya. I think I forgot to mention that for me to be able to add you to our WhatsApp group, I will need your phone numbers as well. So please, I indulge you to add your phone numbers to your email addresses so that I can invite you to that group. All right, so we can begin planning and moving forward. So your phone numbers as well before we part company. And the final word, again, I'd like to thank all of you and also thank the First Nations people, the indigenous people, the Inuit, the Métis, whose ancestors sacrificed their lives so that we may live. I also want to thank the Canadian government, for making this day possible, because they gave us the grant to do this. We've seen for the past few years efforts being made by the Canadian government, all right, to break the barriers of systemic racism. They're doing their best. I'm sure they can do better. And we need to keep the fire under their feet so that they do better. And we must take the opportunity that we have an environment now that allows us, all right, to air our grievances and suggest ways to address the problems that we confront. The BC government has been doing quite a lot in this regard as well. But there is more to be done, and we need to be actively involved. Let our voices be heard. Let us make noise so that our voices are heard and that concrete measures are taken to improve our lot. We need inclusion, all right? Inclusion. Inclusion, we need to be part of the solution. We need to have a space or place on the table and not treated as peripheral, in discussing and seeking to solve the problems that face us. We have to be part and parcel of it. So, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you again, and we need to hug ourselves, all right, for this accomplishment. Let us do more of this. Thank you. Asante sana, kwaheri. God bless you.
Professor
Yes.
Charles, Professor
Yes.
Charles,
Yes.
we have two people behind our work today.
Okay.
There was Ashley and there was Samuel who did the website, everything, posting, doing, programming.
Right.
Can we say hello to them too?
Okay, very good. Yes, those behind the scenes doing the heavy lifting. So we thank you all, for your contribution. We can't thank you enough. When the cock crows, okay? We don't have the cock crow here, but what we say in Ghana is that when you hear the cock crowing, it is we saying thank you all.
Kadondo kadondo, sijana mzuri kadondo, kadondo kadondo kadondo, kurochi mukambwe. Ona nipendeza, when I say you want in a million, yeah, uchuma mzuri kari, yeah, talimu vyachi ayo. When I say you want in a million, yeah, uchuma mzuri kari, yeah.